Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm sure more will be joining us soon. My name is Michelle Anish. I am with CMAA, and I would like to thank Laura Nee, who is the creator and CEO from VPO, who's going to get us started off today. The name of the presentation is VPO, a project partner, not just a PMIS product. And we'll go ahead and hand it over to Laura, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle. Good afternoon from me today. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank CMAA for allowing us to present this webinar. It is a product-focused webinar, and we're excited to share our experience with VPO with you and to give you some background as to who VPO is and what it's all about. But we also we're really excited to include some of our customers in today's session as well to talk to you about how they found VPO, what they like about VPO, and how they use VPO on a regular basis. So we're going to first start off having Roxanne from CBRE Heary share her experience and trying to, using a project management system like VPO prior, and how she came about finding VPO and sort of her experience about that. And then we're going to show you a product demonstration of VPO, which is the premise of this meeting. So we're going to show you what you get out of the box with VPO, but what you'll learn is that we're able to customize VPO to meet your project management needs. And so Adam and Paul are going to talk to the process of customization and what that looks like, and how VPO really suited their requirements and their clients' requirements as a construction management firm. So Adam's going to talk to us from a project manager's perspective out in the field using VPO as a construction management tool. And Paul will be talking to us about his experience of setting up VPO, certainly purchasing VPO or selecting VPO many years ago, but then making it the Answer template version of VPO for all of Answer. But before we get started, what I'd like to do is have each of our presenters go ahead and tell you a little bit about themselves. And so I guess I'll start first in that I am Laura Nee, as Michelle introduced. I am the creator of VPO. I have had over 25 years of experience working in the engineering construction industry, and I have really coming from the technology end, more so than the construction management or project management end. And I like to work with customers to utilize our software. That's how our software got its start. We really didn't go out and create a bunch of great software that our customers use the same way. What we do is we work hand in hand with our customers in order to have the software support their requirements and unique needs. So, Roxanne, I'll turn it over to you to do introductions for yourself.
All right. Thank you, Laura. So I've been working in the construction management industry. I don't even know now. We're getting close to 30 years, I think. And so at varying levels, and it's always been an interesting experience. I learn something new every day still. So that's one of the things that I've been doing primarily in the Northwest region. So I try to support the entire region in supporting our clients and setting up new programs when we're getting set out. So it's a lot of from the finance side all the way through to the document control side. So
great. Thank you. Adam's straight from the field, so he's not on video today. But Adam, would you like to share some of your experiences with the group?
Yeah. So, hi guys, my name is Adam Hunt. I'm a senior construction manager with Answer Advisory. I first got in touch with Laura probably 2017-ish. So I've been working with VPO to manage my projects for 5, 6, 7 years or so. And that's about it. I'm currently on the field running 2 or 3 different projects with VPO right now.
Great. Thank you, Adam. And Paul.
Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Buckley. I am Senior Vice President and a Managing Director at Answer Advisory. I am a CMAA authorized instructor for the PCM course, as well as Adam. Answer is very involved in CMAA, where we are mega members, and we actually worked with Laura back since 2016. And what we loved, especially as Laura said, they are partners when they work with you. We've been able to customize what you're going to see out of the package to do business the way Answer does it, which is really to follow the CMAA standards of practice. And I have over 42 years of experience as a designer, as a contractor, and the last almost 30 years as a construction manager.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone, and thank you all for volunteering your time to speak to this audience about your experiences with VPO. As I mentioned, what we're going to start off with is Roxanne's going to tell us a little bit about her journey finding a project management system and starting out with an in-house system that, and moving into more of a full service administration system like VPO. Then I'm going to switch over and present VPO as a product demonstration. And then we're going to switch over to Answer's version of VPO on a specific project that Adam is currently managing. And then Paul's going to wrap up with talking about their experience with implementing VPO as a standard across the Answer organization. We will have a period for questions and answers towards the end of the session. So if you'd like to ask questions in the chat or the QA feature of Zoom, that would be great anytime during the presentation, and then we will address them towards the end of the presentation. So I had the luxury of working with Roxanne on the implementation of VPO with CBRE Heary. And one of the things that I really love about Roxanne is that she's one of our only customers that sort of was doing what we do with VPO before she had VPO. And so she appreciates a lot of the challenges that go along with how you can, manage a project independently. But I think, you'll hear her story as far as, some of the advantages that she sees in working with us as VPO as opposed to continuing to do it on their own. Mm-hmm. Roxanne, I will turn it over to you to kind of share your story and kind of bring up a graphic here to sort of start to talk about where you started and where you ended up.
Yes, I think it was in the early 2000s. We got frustrated with using kind of piecemeal systems, Excel, Word, very, very limited in terms of what was available. And we started developing our own internal tools. And so when we set out using SharePoint, it was as SharePoint, we actually start out with a beta test version way at the very beginning. And we learned a lot through that process and really tested it out and found out that there was some flaws in the system that made it that wasn't really going to be applicable. And then when the next generation of SharePoint was issued, it became a lot more approachable to be able to use it as a collaboration tool. So we started standing up our own SharePoint sites using, construction management approach that is actually very similar to the out-of-the-box approach that VPO uses. So it was a very easy transition. At the time, even though as frustrating it is to also stand up your own sites and be your own administrator and also to be your own tech support, we didn't really think about going another direction up until the time that we were acquired by CBRE. And that brought some limitations in that they did not allow external access into our systems on the server. And I was like, well, that doesn't work for project collaboration then, does it really? So we started really thinking about what we were going to do. And one of my counterparts was at a CMAA conference and got into a conversation with Laura and passed on our information to me and said, you need to talk to her. So we had a few demos and worked through the process and the approach and was like, I think this could be an easy transition. So it's really actually been a great shift to be able to use something that was very quickly able to be implemented. And that was and also keep it very simple for all the users on the system. That was some of the overriding criteria. So we've been really happy with that. And then now we know as we move forward, and we basically got our own template that we're going to continue to tweak and upgrade going on into the future. So it's really been a very flexible, easy to use solution.
And tell them a little bit about the projects that you're using VPO to manage.
So we do a lot of K through 12 construction management. So we manage the entire program usually, and it can have anywhere from, 2 projects, or it could be a whole 15, 20 projects, all under the one program umbrella, and making sure that all the user groups are able to have access, including all the owner stakeholders, as well in some cases, some of the building officials wanted to have access to it as well for sharing of the information. And it's really been a very transparent collaboration. It's worked very well.
And I remember, adoption, once you were able to introduce this to people outside your organization, it was challenging to get them to embrace a system, any system, not necessarily our system, but, any system. And we did do a lot of handholding, not only from the training perspective, but also the onboarding perspective, and some sorting out some of the nuances at that time that there were with inviting external users into a SharePoint platform. So,
which it has gotten easier. SharePoint was quite cumbersome at the beginning. With that, but it has gotten a lot easier. And the users of our system that we had worked with in the past, the consultants, architects, contractors that had worked our SharePoint system before, had the easiest transition into this system because the approach was very similar.
And I think a lot of our customers that we work with started, their IT departments sort of turn over the keys to SharePoint, but you're kind of on your own as far as making it into a system that can help support your processes. And I know you and other customers that we've worked with, found SharePoint, but then got sort of blocked by moving forward with it in anything more sophisticated than they A, had time to do, and B, had the skills or expertise to do. You're probably one of the most skilled end users that we've ever had as a customer. And I think, even you appreciate some of the things that we're able to do out of the box, in addition to out of the box. And, to try and take that on yourselves, you guys are managing your projects, and that's what you should be doing. And especially you're a project manager overseeing multiple projects and organizations. We want our customers to focus on what you do best, which is manage your projects and leave the IT setup and administration to us.
So thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. Anything else to add before we move forward?
Yeah, it's just been a big relief to not have to worry about that part of it. And I can, focus on just the communications and the user adoption challenges.
Yes, so you can take those on. All right. Well, thank you so much, Roxanne. I appreciate it. Feel free to chime in through, any of the part of the presentation, as well as Paul and Adam also. So we're going to switch over gears. I know not everybody's familiar with VPO and sort of who we are and our background. So I thought I'd start off by explaining that, our company, VPO, it actually was called the Simplex Group at the time, got its start in the 1980s as a Primavera reseller. And having sold Primavera to the engineering construction industry, we had a lot of expertise working with customers who were managing large, complex projects. We worked with anyone from a specialty contractor, general contractor, architect, engineer, owner, construction management firm to, use Primavera, but more in a side fashion. It wasn't really until the 2000s that this collaborative environment was even considered in the construction industry. And in 2008, we were working with a specific construction management firm overseeing a $54 million hospital renovation project. And they're currently, got acquired by Stantec, but they had sort of a vision even back in those days where there wasn't really the cloud. And that vision was to have a collaborative system that in that case, it was a multi-prime project where multiple contractors were submitting RFIs and submittals for review and approval. And he had wanted it to be done electronically. And, that we had tried to use a version of Primavera to facilitate that, and it just wasn't. It was still meant for a general contractor's use. So we had to go back to the drawing board with them and, come up with something different. And that's how VPO came about. We built it on a SharePoint platform because we knew that SharePoint had the audit trail, had the workflow associated with it, and as a plus, it had document management also. And so we were able to build a system for that client, and that's how VPO came about. So VPO is really, our claim to fame is that we're not just a product, so we are a partnership. We build things for our customers. Our customers have really great ideas as well, and they're almost engineers at heart themselves. And so most of our customers find themselves wanting, they know that there's a better way to do something. And, having experience ourselves with Primavera, I knew there was a simpler way and a more cost-effective way to get everybody on board in a central repository so that you could have, a secure system that is managed by us, but used by our customers in a trusted platform. It is important. No two cloud-based systems are the same. So it is important. And we really chose the Microsoft platform to host our system of VPO because Microsoft is, 99.9% guaranteed uptime. But it also, passes all the regulations for compliance and regulatory systems. And, most of all, from an adoption perspective, it's something that's easy to use. It's familiar to familiar to people about what they use on a daily basis, like Word and Excel and Outlook. So you don't have to spend multiple days in a training class to get up to speed on using VPO. But our true claim to fame is customization. And when we say customization, sometimes that scares people, but our customization is really, configurable configuration, but quickly. So, it's not something that we customize for the same way for all of our customers. When you start with VPO, you get our proven best practices that have come from customers like you, but we can really use it as a basis, but then turn it into any type of process or feature that you want to automate once you understand the platform. And the other, differentiator of VPO is that we do administer the system for our customers. So even customers that have resources, they still still utilize our dedicated resources to help manage their projects so that they don't have to do that themselves, as well as dedicated support, allowing not only your own individual users inside your company, but also the people you work with outside of your company that could be inviting into VPO. We support those end users on your behalf. So we're not big software. It's not a product that you have to buy and then train an individual person to go set up in your organization and do all the training and all the support. We really do work hand in hand with you to get the system to make sure that it adds as much value as possible. So having said that, let me just share with you our sort of demonstration out of the box of VPO. It continues to grow, but we just continue to add more and more functionality. But every customer gets a starting point. So unlike, trying to use SharePoint out of the box, there is a lot of content that has been proven best practices of how companies like yours use VPO, and we can tailor it specifically to your needs. So this is our portfolio site, again, within the SharePoint platform. And the portfolio site is simply your launching point to all the individual projects that you'd be using to manage VPO. It's also your step for, getting training, any documentation in our support ticketing system. You also can keep stakeholders informed as to the progress of your portfolio of projects, embedding Power BI type reports, dashboard type reports. and also having your own snapshot of the information that you work with on a regular basis daily. Now, on the left-hand side are some of the global aspects of VPO. And then on the center here, you'll see that this could be your list of projects themselves. And then within every project, you have the ability to organize, filter, slice and dice, and even get reports at the portfolio level out of the system so that you can see a dashboard, or you could even, as a construction manager, set up a dashboard for your clients, the multiple projects that your clients are managing, to have them informed as to, what's the timeline associated with your projects, the phase of the projects, and any other dashboards that might be important to you or your client. The other thing that's challenging of any project management system that's collaborative is the security aspect of it. And so we try to make it as easy as possible to have the security permission groups set up ahead of time so that when you're inviting people into your projects, you're confident as to what level of permissions they have access to the information. That can be a real challenge in any type of system. But we really try to take that challenge out and make it really easy to see exactly, if I'm going to be inviting somebody into my system, what are they going to have access to every type of document or, module within the system. And so we can always tailor this, but this gives you a starting point, and is also best practice to say, okay, as a construction manager, for customers who are construction manager, these are the default permission groups that you typically see. And we've already decided, done the legwork as to what they should have access to. But again, it's always able to be tailored. For our organizations or clients that are owners, we have another type of, setup similar, but usually it's, different types of groups associated with it. So I just wanted to kind of highlight a few things on our base template. And then what we're going to do is switch over to Answers version when you'll be able to see how Adam uses it on an actual project itself. Now, the project homepage is sort of your starting point of that particular project, and that's where you usually start inviting external users into your system. And the homepage serves as sort of an update of what's going on time now with that particular project. You can have other ancillary information on the homepage, whichever you decide is fine. We just establish a template with you so that all of your projects have the same consistency and look and feel. On the left-hand side are the modules that you get outside of the box with VPO. So we'll go through those, and we'll go through a few in detail just so you can understand how the workflow works. So, with VPO, we are a formal project management system. It's not just a SharePoint site that manages your documents. It is that, but there's more, and there's a lot more workflow associated with it in itself. And the starting point usually for a project is to identify the people who are going to be working on the project or who are just contacts of the project. But the idea here is that you add your people or the contacts to your project. We have a global directory, so if you work with the same contacts over and over again, then they're able to be pulled into this project. But the important part here is the project security piece. So those groups that I introduced to you at the global level, when you're adding a new contact, all you need to do is specify what type of security group they belong in, which determines what they have access to on the left-hand side of the menu, and then whether or not you want to invite them to your project. And when you're ready to invite them to your project, our support team is involved in the onboarding process. So as long as you specify who it is, what their email address is, and what permission groups they are, we take it from there. If we invite them and they have a problem, they can't remember their password, they can't log into the system, then they contact us and not you. And we have a full service support portal that any user inside your organization or outside your organization can leverage to get access to quick how-tos, directions. We have everything documented here. But you can also, if you can't find your information in a knowledge base, you can simply fill out a support ticket, take a screenshot of the issue that you may be having, and then our support staff will contact you. And that's any client, any architect, engineer, subcontractor, contractors that you invite into your system. We provide that single point of contact. So once you've got your users set up, you will have documents that you'll want to be managing. And this is where some of the customization comes in that we can give you a starting point to manage your documents. But this really becomes your document management tool. If you already are happy with the way you're filing your documents, we can just incorporate this as a template so that every project has the same filing structure. And then we can, certainly create one-offs as needed or delete things out that aren't needed. But this helps with the standardization across projects. We also have an issuance summary. So, at the very inception of a project, you're collecting a lot of documents and from a lot of different parties involved, even outside of your organization. In the early design or pre-design phase, you have a lot of documentation that you're managing maybe internally. As you go into the design phase, you're getting submitted drawings and for review and approval from architects and engineers. And then through the construction phase, there's a different set of documents that are being issued for construction. And then you have, your post-construction documents. So our issuance module really manages all of those documents, the collection of those documents, the distribution of those documents, and then puts them in the proper repository depending on how people fill out the form on the issuance. So our issuance module allows to track, the types of documents that are being issued on a project, some permitting information, but the actual documents themselves get added here in bulk, and then they're actually stored in the appropriate location. And there's workflow associated with all those, so that if you require any review and approval, you're able to track that. And then the documents end up in the proper repository, which is a SharePoint document library, but we leverage metadata so that the information that you've filled out on the form gets associated with each and every document. That makes it easy to then find documents. So if you want to be able to, filter out by a certain type of document, you can, and it just makes it easy. I mean, the larger the project, the more the documents and the drawings are, and the harder it is to find that information. So you also have version histories. Anytime a new document is distributed, it can track via version history any of the changes, so you can see anything that has been issued previously. And that whole issuance, there's a lot of tracking of documents there. So, we have a lot of document management capabilities. You also can pull and sync these documents offline so that if you have the need, you can, have a briefcase of documents essentially that are synced. And then that way I can take my documents anywhere. I can make a change to them offline here, and then they'll be updated online as well. Now,
Laura, can I butt in?
Sure.
You're talking about the version history. This is also a good way when we have our contractors come to us and say they submitted something on a certain date and we've been sitting on it for a week and we haven't got back to them, things like that. We can actually pull up the version history and say, hey, you know what? You forgot to hit submit, or you didn't put the right person in the ball and court, or something like that. It's a way to kind of show them what's really going on, and and hold them to the truth of when they gave us stuff, and times, how long it's been held, things like that.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Adam. Continue to chime in at any time. So there's a lot that you get out of the box. So I'm going to sort of highlight, or I'm going to sort of review this, but then we're going to go over to Adam's system so you can see how they're using it. But we essentially have a project cost management system that allows you to outline the cost codes or breakdown of all the different costs of your project, be able to manage the contracts, the potential change orders, the approved change orders, and then payouts. So we have, job cost management as part of VPO. We have your typical logs. So we have RFIs, submittals, and issues, action items, and, the workflows in VPO all work the same way. We provide a form for somebody to fill out information, and then we use our ball and court feature to route it for review and approval. We have statuses to manage the various statuses a document goes through, but our ball and court is what directs it to the next person in line for review and approval. The CC fields allow you to keep a group of people in the loop on that particular item. And then all the information that's filled out is collected also in an audit trail. So as Adam said, you're able to, at any point in time, pull up a document and see the version history associated with that document, and anybody who's the date that it was initiated, the date it was answered. You could do a lot of statistic analysis on your documentation, and it's all here, all in one place. And then, people for the people that are out in the field, we're able to, capture daily report information, and as much information or as little information as needed. We can incorporate photos. We can have hard copy documents with any of these workflows as well. So if you want to print, we have transmittals, cover sheets with all of these in PDF format that enable you to go in and have a professional looking report. If you're responsible for, submitting this report to other entities, you can email it or just save it as a PDF, but you also have the ability to keep everything here all in one place, which means that it's truly auditable, right? So, or searchable. If I have, a daily report with, specific information that I want to try to find, I can easily filter and get to that information within seconds. So that I'm going to leave it there. There's some other features or modules certainly that we could take a look at, but what I'd like to do is spend the time showing you sort of a different version of VPO that we worked with Answer on, and that so you can sort of start to see the differences between what's in our base template and what customers can do to customize it. So just like we showed the portfolio level, we have a list of Answers projects. Multiple offices use VPO at Answer. So some of these projects are within Adam's office and Paul's office. Some of these offices are in Ohio, or projects are in Ohio. So we have one comprehensive project management system to support. Answer has multiple, office locations, multiple divisions all over the U.S. And then within Adam's project, this is a landfill project. Let me just pull up the project information, Adam, and you can just talk briefly about, the scope of this project. And you're on mute.
All right. So, again, this is a landfill closure project, which means the landfill's been closed since 2016, and we're going through and basically regrading all the slopes and cleaning things up, and we're going to put a turf membrane on top of it to basically close it off. So again, going through the information here, you can kind of see all the details on the client and the stakeholders and the cost and things like that. So, looks like we're on the progress photos now, Laura.
Yeah.
All right. So progress photos, I'm using these as kind of high level activities. So when the client opens up their homepage of the project, they can kind of scroll through here. They don't have to get into, there's another section we have in VPO for our project that has all photos, which is, hundreds and hundreds per month. The progress photos there that Laura was just showing is more high level. So our client can kind of get an idea of what's going on during a certain time.
You want to go through your document libraries next?
Yeah, sure. So starting off with issuance, and Laura kind of touched on it during her demo a few minutes ago. The way I'm kind of using it is settlement has occurred on this landfill since the last topo. The engineer, owner, contractor, we've all come to the conclusion that we're going to be using issuance as basically revisions to bench grades. So every time the contractor needs new grades to benches, instead of having to submit an RFI and going through the whole RFI process, we've all just agreed that the engineer can basically revise a certain bench rather than an entire sheet, and then we'll issue it to the contractor that way.
And you could see the variety of different libraries that are here too, and all the different pieces of information that get funneled in here. So Adam has his own kind of structure for document. We have a specific standard for how we are managing documents within Answer as well.
So
Let's
and
go
again,
over
the issue and summary isn't just
Go ahead.
the issue and summary is kind of like what Laura's saying. It's obviously revisions to drawings, things like that, but it kind of comes down to what the client wants to see and how we're going to tailor our specific projects to meet the client's needs.
And then next, Adam, let's go through sort of an overview of your project cost modules. So you've got your budget in here, you've got your contracts, you have one contract on your projects, and then you have PCOs that could potentially turn into change orders. So that whole process is managed within the system.
Right. And what's nice about this is everything's linked so that we can actually create budget reports for like our weekly meetings and stuff like that. And that'll collect everything from how much we paid out in pay apps, what's been approved in change orders, things like that. So I think one of the things that I like most about using VPO is kind of how VPO, Laura's team works with us on reports, and they kind of tailor the reports to reflect exactly what we're looking for, which all and weekly meetings and stuff like that.
Great. And then pay apps.
So
Go ahead.
go ahead. Sorry. Well, I was just going to say, again, the pay apps module, obviously you see how many pay apps we've had approved, how many been certified. For the total, they're down at the bottom. So once pay app 5 comes in, we'll certify pay app 4, and then basically start the whole new process all over.
And then notice here how, we've really tried to adopt a lot of the CMAA standard practices and really Answer in Paul's group has been doing this from the very beginning, but there's a lot more workflow modules that we've developed that are not necessarily standard or out of the box because of the way that our customers need to use them.
Laura, if I'd like to just jump in real quickly while you're on pay apps. I was going to talk about this overall Answer. Even within Answer, each office does things slightly different. And one example of that is our tracking of quantities and how it relates to a payment application. So on Adam's projects, we are paying on a percentage basis for some items, but we're not tracking quantities in the daily reports like some of our other offices do. So we actually worked with VPO to customize the payment application process to match the needs of each individual offices. So we have, when we start a project within VPO, there's a certain template that we fill out, and we can turn on features and we can turn off features based on where we are, who the client is, and the way we do business in that particular office.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, and some other highlights here. I know Adam, you and Paul use submittals religiously. So do you want to talk just a little bit about how the submittal log has helped you and how you're using it?
Yeah. So I mean, submittals are huge on every project. Obviously, I like the way that it's kind of set up. So you have reports. Laura, would you mind going up to the separate view up there towards the top right and showing the weekly meeting view? I think it's the top one on the list there. So this is what's great about working with Laura and her team is she can customize reports and views that are only geared towards open items or items that are now resubmitted and now they're in my court or the contractor's court or the engineer's court and things like that. So it really helps us keep a handle on where things are and tracking. There's a column to the far right, the summary in action. That one just came in a few hours ago, so that's probably not a good one. But if you expand it further, you can see that verbiage on the right with the dates. Yeah. So you're going to scroll down a little bit further, and we're updating the discussion, and that's basically the verbiage that shows up in our weekly meetings, right? So every time I get a submittal, I'll kind of update where it is and where it's going and stuff like that. So all I have to do each week when I'm creating an agenda is basically print out this weekly view report, and it lists all the submittals that are open, whose court they are, and basically this summary of where it is. And that's similar with RFIs, any PCOs, anything like that that you'd want to include into a meeting agenda.
Yeah,
So that saves a lot.
Pull that up here. You really use the meeting minutes module to organize all of your meetings. You want to talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I create my agenda each week for our coordination meeting, it's literally just cutting and pasting different reports together, right? So as long as I'm updating these submittals or these RFIs or these pay apps under the discussion section within the module itself, then I'm just printing reports to create my agenda. So I don't, if you probably want to open one of the attachments at the bottom, Laura, and just show them what a typical meeting agenda looks like. So this is basically the meeting minute homepage, which you have a module for. Our statement of working days, which you have a module for. The weather's basically pulled off NOAA and cut and paste into our agenda. Here's a status budget report we talked about earlier, where it includes everything from PCOs and pay apps. The 3-week look ahead again is just brought in from the contractor. Next one would be there would be a PCO section right in there, but we didn't have any PCOs at the first meeting, obviously. And then again, just different reports. These are this is the first meeting, so there wasn't a lot on RFIs other than what we're looking for at that point. And then issues that we have a module for, which we basically print the report, and it obviously gives you the issue description and stuff like that. So it makes meeting minutes a heck of a lot easier, because you're basically doing your meeting minute consistently throughout the week every time you update one of your items.
And I liked how you are using the system right out of the gate to manage all the issues that may, negatively affect documenting the issues that could possibly, affect the project.
Right. And again, I mean, you see a list of like 30 items here, but all you have to do is click that view to like weekly view, which VPO customized for us again, and you'll see what's open and basically a summary on what's going on with that item.
And I'm just sort of going down the list here, Adam. We've got your daily reports. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so daily reports, that includes everything from our daily reports and our CQA consultants' daily reports. If you noticed on that left side, there's an inspector daily reports as well. We keep our deputies' reports and things like that separate. But a daily report, there's plenty of fields in there for tracking activity, both field activity, office activity. And like Paul was saying, under the payment section, like for our Ohio offices, they can track, length of pipe that's installed and more quantity tracking in their daily reports. We don't use that on my project specifically. But yeah, once we have all the information, go ahead.
No, we for Answer, we developed a pay apps module that pulls in quantity tracking, daily reporting. to help generate the pay apps. So will you decide on your projects whether you need that functionality or not, even at the contract level? And then depending on that, the daily reports differ on how you enter the information.
All right. So, I mean, you can attach pictures, you can attach whatever you want in your daily reports.
And then I thought I would just wrap up talking about archive. As a CM, oftentimes our customers who are CM construction managers are required to turn documents over at the end of the project. So what this does is it essentially tracks all of the information as it's being submitted on a regular basis in one location. So if you wanted to see all the PCOs that have been entered to date and all the data behind it, you can see all of the attachments, the cover sheet, and the version history. And then what that means is it's an easy way to turn over all the documentation to the client in zip format that then can be restored with the same structure, so that if they're going to download it, or if you want to just save it offline, you'll have all that information available to you. Adam, anything else or any thing to add to just sort of summarize about your using VPO after this many years? Before we switch over?
It makes me life a heck of a lot easier. It's a lot easier to track where everything is and what I'm supposed to be on top of and what my engineers are supposed to be on top of and things like that. So I really like how we can get reports tailored to our needs, and yeah, it's a lot easier than working with other people like Procore, where they don't answer half my questions.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience. And Paul, we're going to go on to you. I don't know if you want to turn your video camera back on, or if you know that it's not on.
I don't know. I know it's not on, but it's it's not responding.
Oh, okay. No problem. No worries. What I was hoping from your perspective, there you go, is just to talk about how we worked together, over the many years to make VPO into your own product solution.
Yeah, for
The
absolutely.
docs, the CMAA.
Well, as I mentioned at the beginning, I've been around a long time, and I've done a lot of projects going back into the 80s and 90s when PCs were starting to be used and everything was in spreadsheets, and there were finally PMIS databases, and Primavera was the big boy on the block. And then around 2008, when Oracle acquired Expedition and Contract Manager, and then there was this vacuum, and the entire industry went through a search. Where do we go? What do we do? And that is when we discovered LoRa. We were looking, and we tried all of the big. We tried all of them, and as we all know, a lot of our larger agency clients have these big enterprise solutions, and it's all the names that we know, and they're very good products, but they're enterprise solutions, and they take a lot of administration, and IT departments tend to lock them down and restrict who can have access, and it works for that agency, and that's great, but on a large agency like that, when you have a little nuance that you want to operate or run your project in a certain way, it's very restricted. So what we did is we have many, many clients that don't have their own PMIS or CMAS systems, and they ask us to bring in a solution. And what's been great is we've been able to bring to the table the CMIS or PMIS that we can customize, number one, for the way we do business and the way we can manage our clients' projects and give them the best value. But also many of our clients have little nuances as well in the way that they operate, the way they want to see things done. We can, client by client, tweak our out-of-the-box template to do things in a particular way for a particular client, and they find that extremely valuable. Laura first introduced us in 2016 to her out-of-the-box template, and what you're seeing in the template today is much more advanced than the template that we saw in 2016. New users get the benefit of all the other users that Laura is dealing with on a regular basis. As she said, we are all engineers and we think outside the box sometimes. We're not programmers, many of us, but we're able to identify, man, wouldn't it be great if we could do this or do that, or this might make it a little easier. And what's so cool about Laura's and her team is they truly are partners. We sit down with them on a monthly basis, whether everything's working fine or not, and we discuss, how can we make things a little bit better? Is there anything else we can do for you that you'd like to see implemented? And she takes all of those comments and suggestions from all of her different clients. And it's not just construction managers. There's folks like Adobe and a whole bunch of different project workflows. And she's able to physically show us what other people are doing with her own software within VPO, but it's just being used in a different manner. And that is so valuable because, we live in our own little bubble, but to see what people are doing outside that bubble and what might make our lives that much easier is extremely valuable. So we really do that. Now within Answer, for my division, I've been using VPO since 2016, and on an annual basis, we would tweak it and make it better year by year. As Answer has grown, many of the different offices also had clients that didn't have their own PMIS or CMIS systems. They were forced to use some of the big, out-of-the-box enterprise solutions, but it didn't always fit. So when they found out what I was using, they started inquiring what we were doing. And now within Answer, we have basically a monthly meeting amongst leaders in each of the offices where we have established what we consider an Answer standard template that sits in the background. And that committee of leaders and power users like Adam, we sit there and decide, okay, what is CMAA's best practice? Number one. Number two, what's really a priority and what's not? What are the ideal ways a particular client in a particular office or region, how they operate versus how clients do things in Southern California? And we build those flexibilities into our template. So when we get a new client or a new project within an existing client portfolio, it's very, very easy to start a new project. As Laura demonstrated in her out of the box, we're able to go through and set up security, access rights based on whether it's a consultant, a designer, a contractor, etc. Very easy to set up. And it's basically toggle switches for the way you want to run that project. So across the board within Answer, we've taken it from being used in one office in one division to rolling it out to all of our offices across the country. And people in Answer are very excited about it, and we're continuing to build that partnership with VPO and her staff.
Yeah, what I liked about your approach is that, we were able to take what one office was using and then take the best of it and then take information from other offices and how they were using it for other things having other processes and then working together to build one master template that you can turn features on and off or toggles on and off, but that way you're having the same standardized system across any project.
And the customization, the on-the-fly customization. One example is we have a client, and in the middle of the project, that client said, "Hey, I don't want the contractor to have access to this or that, or I want my portfolio to look like this. Can you do that for me?" And without hesitation, I don't have to. I already know what Laura and VPO's capabilities are. We're able to give our client what they want. And As a matter of fact, that actual client, which happens to be a large public agency, already has an enterprise solution that they have rolled out countywide. They have actually come back on this $58 million project and said, we're not using that. We're going to use VPO. So they've gone away from their standard because they know the critical nature of this project and the flexibility that VPO has provided them on previous projects. So it's been wonderful.
Thank you, Paul. And I think that that was sort of what we had planned for the product demonstration portion. And Michelle, I know I had said that you could ask the questions, but going through the questions list, I'll probably, since we only have a few minutes remaining, pick the questions that I think would be great or most important for this audience. And then the technical questions about the software, we can certainly follow up with people individually. But I think that the one question that is relative to this group is for Paul and Roxanne and Adam, as far as, do you build a VPO subscription into your contracts with your clients?
Roxanne, you want to go first?
You're on mute, Roxanne. You're still on mute.
Pulling back on. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, probably going forward, that is probably what we will do. Our situation was when we first went to the solution, we already had contracts in place. So we really weren't able to do that. So it was more of an internal investment on our side to test it out and really understand how it worked and how we could apply it going forward. So, yeah, I think that will be part of, contract negotiations, going forward and stuff. If we have the ability to present the tool and, be able to put it in there. Otherwise, we've got to build it in on the back end. So,
And
it was a challenge.
I would agree with that. Since I've been using it for so long, I have been able to get it into my contracts, and I'm able to, and the pricing structure is so much better than what you find in some of the big enterprise solutions. So the clients really don't mind that. So in my case, I am able to build it into my contracts. However, in the Ohio region where they're using it, it's a different feel. Some of the clients feel it should be part of the overhead. So it's really on a client by client basis. I would recommend that you show them the value and the savings, the very small monthly cost to have a project run on VPO versus the efficiencies and manpower and resources and getting reports and customizable dashboards the way the client wants is well worth it.
Thank you. And one quick question came in as, what does VPO stand for? Which you didn't miss. We didn't cover it. We started out in 2008 with VPO, and it stands for Virtual Project Office, because at the time virtual was more of a buzzword. So now we just go by VPO because it's the cloud, and there's a lot of, it's just sort of known as VPO now, but that's what it stood for. I think we have one more minute. There's some questions about how it ties in with Microsoft 365 and whether you can integrate it with an ERP system. So VPO is running within the Microsoft 365 environment. If you have Office 365 or Microsoft 365, you can use your own credentials. We typically set up a tenant that you would log into, and that way it's neutral and not in your tenant, but in our tenant, controlled by us and our administrators, but accessible by you and anyone you introduce it to within the company. And yes, it can be integrated with ERP systems. We have every customer can use whatever ERP system they want, and we can integrate. And typically the integration points are financial integration points with contract information, budget information, invoices, purchase orders. We can pull information and push information back and forth between an ERP.
And Laura, one of the things I might point out is that initially a lot of our clients who have big IT departments were very worried about security, allowing a third-party software being introduced by their consultant was a big concern. But because it's on SharePoint and because it's Microsoft, those concerns went away very, very quickly, and were no longer an issue.
Yes, that is correct. And most of our customers, we have customers who are in high-profile industries like Lockheed Martin and others that require that level of security as well. So we're able to. That's why we chose the Microsoft platform, to be honest.
And then one last comment is that many of the solutions out there are built for contractors, and and construction managers and owners are forced to use that type of ground up architecture, where yours is truly built for the CM, for the owner. So it's going the other way, and that's a big advantage, and you can really see that difference when they use VPO.
Thank you, Paul. Well, I think that we've reached our time limit, so I so appreciate everyone on this call. Paul, Adam, Roxanne, thank you so much for sharing information about your experiences with VPO. I know there were a lot of questions that we didn't get to, but we'll follow up with a Q&A, maybe in handwritten, or not handwritten, but written format that we'll distribute that we didn't get to. And I appreciate everyone's time, and thank you, Michelle, so much for CMAA hosting this webinar for us.
Yes, Laura, thank you. And thanks to Roxanne and Paul and Adam for joining us today. It's always great to hear about the product and see how it's being used on the other end. So thank you very much. We will have a recording sent out tomorrow. And as Laura had said, we will get you the answers to your questions. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we will see you at the next one. Have a great afternoon.